Varvatos, the demon lord, lives in a country where everyone either respects or fears him. He is the most powerful person to have ever lived and has conquered all of his enemies. No one in the world is prepared to engage in a friendly duel with him. However, he has reached a point in his life where he despises it so much that he wishes for someone to kill him, in order to escape from this unbearable suffering. After much contemplation, Varvatos finally reaches his breaking point and decides to end his life using his own abilities. His intention is to be reborn in another world as an ordinary person, hoping to start a life where he can make friends and allies who genuinely love him, rather than being driven by fear. Consequently, Varvatos is reborn as a small child named Ard, in a village called Fairway situated in a remote area with few inhabitants. He sits with his parents, where they are celebrating his 10th birthday and already imagining what fantastic things he will do for them as he grows up. He appears to be a very rapid learner, except for mental and physical strength. This is a stubborn attitude. Obviously, he is the Demon King. He is an avatar of superior genetics, providing him the ability to learn faster magic, mathematics, and all fighting skills. His parents are really proud of him. Despite the reality that he feels he is the same, it's just that humanity isn't as good as it could be, powerful as it ever was. However, one problem irritates him all the time. He's still not been able to make even one friend in his whole life. One day, he decides to give it a try and make friends for the first time, and he looks outside his window to observe a couple of boys. He stays there for a long time, gathering the courage to actually go have a conversation with them, but before he could, the boys became aware of him. Frightened by the sight of a terrifying child, they ran as quickly as possible. He became very sad and depressed, as this just reawakened the thoughts in his brain that he really cannot make friends ever in his life, because everyone is still afraid of him. But he chooses not to give up and goes to town, where he notices some girls coming toward him. He starts feeling uneasy once again, but he tries to calm himself down and tries to talk to them, but once again ends up scaring them away. He became very sad once more, but this time that sadness soon turned into high anger. Enraged by his failings, he goes to his village's surrounding forest and begins to express his anger. He begins to use his magical powers to send out very powerful magical blasts all around the place. He continues to damage everything that gets close to him, but he stopped after realizing that if he continues causing such horrible damage to the environment, he might end up changing the whole planet's ecology for the worse. He then returned home and appeared to be sick of the problem of loneliness is the main issue in his life. He ended his previous life as the most powerful demon king in the hope that he would make more real friends in his new life. He sits down with Alhide, who was Ard's father's longtime family friend, and the mayor of the town asks Ard Meteor, "What happened to you? You seem to be sad." And Ard tells him about his day and how he attempted to make friends, but they ran away because he believes he has a major mental difficulty. When it comes to making new friends, Alhide smiles at him kindly and guides him to speak in a soft and nice voice when talking to them, especially with the girls. After listening to Alhide's advice, Ard had conquered his mental fear and appeared to be boosted again to try and create friends. The following day, I was waiting around the corner of the street for the same group of girls, and this time he decides to leave his social anxiety aside and go straight up to the girls and ask them nicely if they wish to be friends with him. But no one can figure out what girls actually want, and yet again, he scares them out. This frustrates him once again. He enters the forest and begins harming the trees and making a lot of noise, which draws the animals' attention. He even fires the animals for no apparent reason. This guy genuinely has the balls to not be afraid of the ASPCA. However, he hears a young woman screaming out of nowhere, and she sounds like she's in trouble. He immediately flew through the air at top speed. Toward the sound, he sees a girl there with white hair who is smaller than him, trying to deal with a wolf that Ard thinks is an extremely weak monster. She used her lightning magic on the wolf to kill it. Ard is powerful as hell but lacks intelligence. He believes she's just enjoying herself and practicing her new magical powers on weak monsters. She seemed to be breathing heavily. After her battle with the wolves, Ard goes near her, making her completely shocked. He says sorry to her for frightening her and asks her why she was playing with wolves all alone in the woods. She replies, her name is Irina, and she wasn't playing with the wolves. She was battling against them. She tells him that she was feeling bored and upset because she didn't have any friends with whom she could play. Ard thinks that it may be the perfect time to make a friend. He immediately said to her that he would become his friend and said that he understood her problem of being lonely, but she told him with tears in her eyes that nobody could understand her, and she ran away. Ard is deeply saddened and regrets another rejection. He begins returning home. As he approaches his house, he sees that Alhide is talking with his parents. He considers what Alhide told his parents about interacting with others and how he needs to be polite, but Ard is surprised to see Irina standing next to Alhide. He asks Alhide if he knew who she was, hoping that he might end up making them both friends. Alhide tells him that Irina is her daughter. He enjoys her company and tries to play with her, but she runs away. He keeps asking her to be his friend, but she keeps saying no. He then tries different ways to charm her. On one occasion, he even gave her a bunch of flowers in an attempt to win her over, but it didn't work. Instead, she became angry at him for constantly pursuing her, called him a stalker, and ran away. Art feels extremely sad that Irina perceives him as a stalker when all he wanted was to talk to her and possibly become friends. He returns home once again. He realizes that something is not right in the village. He sees a large group of goblins and other monsters attacking the town and causing chaos. Despite the danger, he is not afraid because he is the Demon King. He is suddenly interrupted by his father, who jumps in and eliminates the approaching monsters. Alhide appears at the scene and informs them that Irina is missing, mentioning that he hasn't seen her since the afternoon. Ard realizes with a jolt that she might still be in the mountains. Filled with anxiety, he blames himself for her predicament, knowing she's alone in the path of the monster army. Ard takes responsibility and promises to ensure her safety no matter what. Determined, he swiftly ascends and employs his magic to fly towards the mountain. He eventually catches sight of her in a small clearing. However, his relief quickly turns to horror as he realizes she is completely encircled by a group of goblins, including a goblin leader. Irina appears to have lost all hope. Ard swiftly reacts, employing an electric dome that shields Irina and delivers electric shocks to every goblin in the vicinity. Descending from above, he relies solely on his magic to annihilate the remaining goblins, excluding the goblin leader. Astonished by Ard's display of power, the leader chooses to flee, but Ard utilizes his magic to eliminate him as well, leaving Irina surprised. Grateful, she expresses her gratitude but questions why he helped her despite her previous rudeness. Ard responds by stating that regardless of her behavior, he will always offer his assistance. Overwhelmed, Irina collapses in tears and asks if he will continue to be her friend and support. Ard solemnly vows that he will indeed be there for her, offering unwavering companionship. 5 years have passed since then. Ard is peacefully sleeping in his bed when he is abruptly awakened by the sound of his room's door opening. Irina enters and approaches his bedside, inviting him to join the magic school alongside her. Ard and Irina make their way to the magic school, where they meet the headmaster. The headmaster informs them that he has heard tales of their remarkable magical abilities and their involvement in the Goblin Attack 5 years ago. Consequently, they are exempt from practical exams, but they are required to take a theoretical exam. Both Ard and Irina complete their written exams, and when the results are announced, Irina easily locates her name on the board, indicating her success. However, Ard struggles to find his name, eventually discovering it at the bottom of the board, revealing that he has obtained a score of 0. Confused by his passing despite receiving 0 marks, Ard is taken aback. Suddenly, the headmaster, named Gold, emerges from behind and explains that Ard's answers were incredibly complex and flawless. The teachers themselves struggled to comprehend half of the theories he presented. Many of the abilities and skills he discussed were lost to time and no longer viable. Nonetheless, the teachers were immensely impressed by Ard's intellect and made an exceptional case for him. Just as Ard and Irina enter the room, they are instantly surrounded by a crowd. The boys are drawn to Irina, while the girls gather around Ard. In the midst of the commotion, they notice a guy in the background harassing a succubus girl and even slapping her. Ard attempts to speak up against the injustice, but Irina intervenes and shouts at them before he can. The guy, Rolo Spencer, asserts that the girl belongs to a lower social class and works as a maid in his household, justifying his actions based on societal hierarchy. According to Rolo Spencer, he believes he has the right to mistreat the succubus girl as he sees fit, asserting his superiority over her. Irina appears shocked by his family's beliefs, but Ard steps forward and mocks Rolo for bullying someone weaker than himself. Rolo, offended by Ard's comment, challenges him to a duel, which Ard accepts. However, before they can engage in any action, their class teacher, Olivia, a demi-human, intervenes to mediate their dispute. Ard recognizes Olivia as one of his apostles from his previous role as the Demon King, which frightens him because he doesn't want her to know that he willingly relinquished his position to be reincarnated. Olivia, intrigued by Ard, decides to allow the duel to take place to observe his capabilities. All the students gather on the ground as Rolo unleashes his flame magic against Ard. However, Ard effortlessly cuts through Rolo's magic, considering it nothing more than child's play. Rolo is taken aback by Ard's skill and attempts to retaliate with his mega flame magic. Once again, Ard easily blocks his spell, mocking El Rolo for merely coming up with a fancy name for his basic magic to impress others. This infuriates El Rolo, who then resorts to using his Gigaflame magic. However, even this powerful attack has no effect on Ard. Determined to teach El Rolo a lesson, Ard unleashes his own Gigaflame, overwhelming El Rolo and reducing him to begging for mercy while groveling on the floor. The display of Ard's prowess surprises everyone, and they congratulate him for his victory. However, the teacher appears to be even more intrigued by Ard, signaling potential interest in him for their upcoming exercises. Olivia instructs them to form a team of 3, and both Irina and Ard decide to recruit the succubus named Ginny. Ginny introduces herself and the trio ventures into the dungeons. They encounter a pack of wolves, and Ginny appears frightened, but Ard effortlessly defeats them with a single attack, making it seem like child's play. Ard attempts to teach Ginny some flame magic, but she struggles to grasp it. To boost her confidence, Ard demonstrates a new magic circle spell and uses it to damage one of the wolves. He then explains the technique to both Ginny and Irina. Eventually, Irina successfully employs the magic. However, their celebration is cut short when they unintentionally trigger a trapdoor, leading them to the boss's room, where a minotaur awaits. Ard casually regards the minotaur as a mere common creature, much to the surprise of Ginny and Irina. Ard uses his magic with minimal effort while teaching the techniques to his teammates. He then instructs Ginny to use the magic he taught her to defeat the boss, which she accomplishes successfully. They emerge from the dungeons, and everyone is astonished by the fact that they managed to defeat the boss. El Rolo continues to mock Ginny, but this time she stands up to him and slaps him. Irina supports Ginny and warns them never to make fun of her again. Ard finds enjoyment in the scene but is interrupted when Olivia takes him away for a talk. Olivia leads Ard directly to the chamber of the headmaster. The headmaster looks at him with admiration and shares all the recent achievements he has heard about Ard. The headmaster then reveals that their budget has been significantly reduced as the queen believes the level of education and magic at the school has declined in the past year. With a keen eye, the headmaster asks Ard to participate in the upcoming magical tournament as the school's leading wizard. Ard respectfully declines, expressing his desire to live a simple life without seeking fame and preferring privacy. The headmaster, skilled in the art of persuasion, reluctantly accepts Ard's decision and mentions that he will consider it before giving a final answer. Ard leaves the headmaster's chamber and walks down the hallway, pondering the difficult position he's in. The scholarship granted by the headmaster allowed him to study at the prestigious institute without paying any fees. If he declines the request, there's a possibility that the headmaster may withhold further funding for him. Lost in thought, Ard is approached by Ginny, who appears very happy and straightforwardly asks him out on a date. Ard hesitates at first but then realizes it could be a good idea to strengthen their friendship, so he agrees, bringing joy to Ginny. However, Irina overhears the conversation and intervenes, expressing her concern about being left alone. Surprisingly, Ginny smiles and tells Irina that she should join them on the date, not wanting to keep Ard all to herself. And they all head to a theater where they have a fantastic time. As they begin walking back during the evening sunset, Ard overhears a conversation in a dark alleyway about a plot against the queen. Intrigued, he tells Ginny and Irina that he needs to investigate further. He apologizes for cutting the date short and suggests they walk back to the school together, but both girls insist on accompanying him no matter what. They follow Ard as he takes them down a manhole, barely able to see anything in the darkness. The girls stick close to him for comfort as they descend into the unknown. After a while, they come across a small room along the wall and try to peer inside. They spot a group of hooded figures gathered around a circle. Before they can react, however, they are caught from behind and pushed into the chamber, surrounded by the hooded figures. The girls become fearful, but Ard boldly confronts them, claiming that if they truly intended to kill them, they would have launched a surprise attack. The leader of the group becomes angry but decides to teach Ard a lesson. He snaps his fingers, and Ard suddenly bursts into flames, seemingly burning alive. The girls scream in terror as the leader laughs, stating that Ard was right. To their surprise, Ard simply brushes off the fire and smiles at them. He lifts his arms and unleashes a powerful lightning magic attack, destroying the demonic crest on the wall, astonishing the hooded figures with his magical prowess. Ard then creates a giant magical circle in the air with a snap of his fingers, unleashing a blast of electricity that incapacitates all the enemies, even surprising the girls. However, Ard leaves the leader unharmed as he intends to extract information from him about who sent them. The terrified leader quickly transforms into a large demon but simultaneously reveals his cowardice. He charges up a magic blast and blasts a hole in the ceiling, flying out of it. Ard calmly looks through the hole and instructs Ginny and Irina to exit the manhole as he intends to give chase. Both girls express confusion, wondering how he plans to pursue a flying demon. To their astonishment, Ard starts floating in the sky and flies after the demon through the hole. The demon is ahead of Ard and about to escape from the hole, so Ard unleashes a massive fire blast, forcefully blowing the demon out. Understanding that he can't escape Ard's pursuit, the demon decides to kidnap a little girl and hold her hostage. Ard rushes out of the hole and confronts the demon, who is now using the child as a shield. Ard injures the demon but notices that panic ensues among the people nearby. He realizes he can't let anyone get hurt and loudly declares his name, mentioning that he is the son of renowned sage Jack Mere. He assures the people that he will take care of the demon without allowing any harm to come to them. The demon scoffs and reminds Ard of the hostage situation. However, to the demon's surprise, the little girl vanishes from his grasp and is safely returned to her mother. Ard had used his super speed to rescue the child without the demon even noticing. Enraged, the demon fires a lightning blast at Ard, who effortlessly dodges it. Realizing his defeat, the demon attempts to flee, but Ard takes aim and unleashes a powerful magic blast, obliterating any trace of the demon. The people celebrate Ard's victory, lifting him up in celebration. The next day, Ard is summoned by the queen herself, who acknowledges his heroics. Ard feels saddened as he had hoped to keep his powers a secret and lead a peaceful life away from the limelight. However, fate seems to have a different plan for him. Ard, along with Irina, Ginny, bow down before the queen to show their respect. Suddenly, Irina casually addresses the queen as Rosie and asks how she is. The shocked onlookers witness the queen smiling and explaining that she and Irina are childhood friends, allowing her behavior to be excused. The queen commends their exemplary conduct and praises them for saving the people from the demon attack. As a reward, she promotes Ard to the Pentagon class mage, Irina to square class, and Ginny to triangle class mage. Although some find Irina and Ginny's promotions questionable, the news surprises everyone, as commoners have never been promoted to such high ranks before. Ard himself doesn't desire such high promotions as it would draw even more attention to him, but he humbly expresses his unworthiness to the queen. Instead, he suggests that if she would be willing, he would appreciate an increase in the funding of her academy. This unexpected request backfires on Ard, as the queen is impressed by his modesty and humility. The queen tells Ard that she will increase the funding for his academy and bestows upon him the title of a Pentagon class mage. She also informs them that they will now be part of a special force team that follows only the queen's direct orders. With the increased funding, Ard no longer needs to participate in the tournament, but both Irina and Ginny choose to compete. Ard sits among the audience alongside Olivia as they observe the different students. Irina enters the arena and the duels begin. One of her opponents uses flame magic, but Irina skillfully dodges and counters with the magic circle spell Ard taught her, easily defeating her opponent. Irina and Ginny continue to climb the ranks, winning every duel until they reach the finals. However, before the final duel can commence, a group of hooded men transforms into demons and causes chaos. Jessica, one of the academy's teachers, instructs Ard and Olivia to go after the demons outside the arena while she deals with those inside. Irina and Ginny fight together against the demons. One of the demons attempts to attack Ginny, but she blocks the attack with a mana shield. The demon persists, and Irina comes to Ginny's rescue, blasting the demon away. Suddenly, a giant golem made of crystal appears, impervious to their magic attacks. Fatigued and low on mana from the previous battles, Irina and Ginny face a challenging situation. However, Allhead, one of the tournament judges and Irina's father, intervenes and effortlessly destroys the golem using his wind magic. Their celebration is short-lived when Jessica stabs Allhead in the back, revealing her true identity and kidnapping Irina. Ard learns of the situation from Allhead and receives a set of armor and a spear from him. Before flying off to save Irina, he encounters Ginny, who wishes to accompany him. Despite her insistence, Ard tells her to wait and heads off alone. Arriving at the ritual ground, he finds Irina surrounded by goblins and a giant blob monster. Ard quickly obliterates the blob monster and uses 9 simultaneous magic casts to eliminate all the goblins. Elzard, a powerful demon, dodges his attack and reveals that Irina is the descendant of the evil gods. Ard tells her that her ancestry does not define her and that what matters is their friendship. This angers Elzard, who attacks Ard with magic, but Ard effortlessly blocks it with his spear and retaliates with flame magic, burning Elzard and hurling his spear at her. Enraged, Elzard transforms into a dragon and unleashes an energy beam. Ard calmly creates a defensive wall and uses a spell to release Lydia, the Golden Lady, from her soul. Lydia blocks Elzard's attack before transforming into Ard's sword. Ard pursues Elzard, who attempts to attack him, but Ard evades and counters. Elzard tries to chase him, but Ard transforms into his demon form, causing fear in Elzard. She attacks, but Ard skillfully dodges and reflects her magic back, injuring her. Ard then utilizes his ultimate ability, ultimately killing Elzard. He reverts to his human form and walks toward Irina, who is overjoyed that he is safe. Together, they return to the kingdom. One day, a new transfer student named Sophie joins their class and immediately seeks out Ard. He is shocked by her arrival, as he believed she had gone into a dungeon to train and was presumed dead. Furthermore, he is surprised to discover that she somehow knew about his self-sacrifice. Olivia scolds Sophie for causing havoc inside the class and tells her that she hasn't changed since her tantrum-throwing days. Ard agrees with Olivia's statement, nodding in agreement. Sophie notices Ard's affirmation and confronts him, claiming that he must be Ard, the demon lord Varvatos. Ard immediately denies the accusation, pretending not to know what she's talking about. Sophie insists that she has done her research and is certain of Ard's true identity. Olivia becomes intrigued and asks Sophie to share her research and how she arrived at this conclusion. Irina intervenes, admonishing Sophie for shouting at Ard without reason, even though they have never met before. Despite the confrontation, Sophie's anger softens when she notices the resemblance between Irina and her older sister, Lydia. Sophie's emotions soften, and her eyes become watery. Irina continues to defend Ard and challenges Sophie to a duel. Ard initially declines, stating that he has no interest in dueling. However, Olivia points out that he dueled against other students just a few days ago. Olivia is interested in seeing Ard fight against a truly strong opponent and orders all the students to gather on the grounds. The students assemble, eager to witness the battle between Ard and Sophie. Ard knows that if he reveals his true power, everyone will realize that his abilities are far more legendary than they had believed, and both Sophie and Olivia will discover that he is the demon lord Varvatos. The battle begins as Ard and Sophie engage each other with swords in hand. Sophie's attacks become increasingly intense, pushing Ard to his limits as he defends against them. Despite the difficulty, Ard manages to hold his ground and successfully block Sophie's attacks. Ard seeks an opportunity to create an opening for Sophie to attack him, making his defeat appear genuine to Olivia and Sophie. However, Sophie continues to increase the intensity of her attacks, forcing Ard to match her level of intensity to avoid being hit. Sophie taunts Ard, attempting to provoke a reaction from him to confirm his identity, but Ard remains composed and does not fall into her trap. Despite a prolonged exchange of attacks, Ard eventually blocks her attack and uses his fire magic to blast her away, breaking her sword. He approaches her with his sword pointed at her, demanding her surrender. However, Olivia shouts from behind that Ard has already been declared the winner. This enrages Sophie, who begins to cry and summons a giant demon sword from the sky to attack Ard. Ard shouts at her to stop, but she remains determined to defeat him and unleashes her full power. Ard is forced to use high-level magic, creating a strong mana dome to protect himself and deflect her attack toward the academy. The attack hits the main building, causing it to break. Olivia scolds Sophie, urging her to see the consequences of her actions. Sophie surveys her surroundings and notices that her classmates are injured, lying on the ground, covered in dust from the fight and debris. Despite this, Sophie remains determined to destroy Ard. However, an unexpected intervention occurs when Irina steps in and slaps Sophie. This action startles Ard, who fears Sophie may harm Irina. To Ard's surprise, Sophie sits down and begins to break down emotionally because Irina reminded her of her sister. Irina consoles Sophie, urging her to stop crying, and the two of them become close friends in the following days. Everything seems to be going well as they participate in the school festival and even perform in a play. However, one night, Sophie calls Ard to meet her alone in the garden. Ard finds Sophie waiting for him with a crystal sword, and her behavior seems peculiar. Concerned, he asks if she's alright, but Sophie summons her holy sword and declares her intention to kill him. Taken aback, Ard tries to fly away, but Sophie pursues him and manages to strike him on the back, drawing blood. Irina and Jenny attempt to intervene, but Sophie attacks them as well. Eventually, Ard is forced to reveal his demon lord form to halt Sophie's rampage. Realizing that Sophie is being possessed by someone else, Ard attempts to use his soothing magic, but Sophie blocks it and continues her assault. In a desperate move, Ard defends himself, himself, waiting for Lydia, the person inside his soul, to communicate. It turns out that Lydia was Sophie's older sister, and due to certain circumstances, Ard had absorbed her into his soul to protect her life. Overwhelmed with emotions, Sophie breaks down and collapses, kneeling on the ground. Suddenly, a masked man emerges from the shadows. He was the one who had falsely informed Sophie that Ard had forcefully imprisoned Lydia within her soul, causing Sophie to lose control of her mind. The masked man picks up Sophie's swords and attacks Ard, but ultimately injures himself. In response, Ard severs the masked man's hands, causing him to leap into the air and attempt to wield Sophie's holy sword. However, the sword rejects him with a shock. Ard seizes the opportunity, taking hold of the sword himself and unleashing a tremendously powerful blast that kills the masked man. In the aftermath, Lydia emerges from inside Ard and comforts Sophie, who cries in her arms. Lydia explains to Sophie that what happened to her was necessary, urging her not to blame Ard, and assuring her that she will always be by her side during their travels together. One day, while accompanied by Sophie and Irina, they are suddenly transported to another dimension by a child claiming to be a god. The child transports them to an ancient version of the land they currently inhabit, during the time when Demon King Varvatos ruled. As they wake up and observe their surroundings, they realize that everything is different. However, Ard recognizes the area as the land that was under his rule 3,000 years ago. Suddenly, they hear a scream and Ard rushes to find a woman being chased by a scorpion. Ard defeats the scorpion with his magic and is thanked by the woman. Olivia appears and expresses gratitude for saving the life of her underling, but she doesn't remember Ard since this is in the past. Olivia then takes them all with her. The next day, she asks Ard to join their army under Varvatos, as demons from another planet are attacking them. Ard agrees on the condition that they be placed under Olivia's command, as she is a researcher and not a soldier. He believes that Sophie and Irina will be safer under her leadership. Olivia agrees and sends them to meet Verda. Upon arriving at Verda's laboratory, it suddenly explodes, and a small girl emerges, claiming to be Verda. She quickly restores her lab, and they all enter. Verda is highly intrigued when she learns that they are from the future and promises to help them return to their reality if they disclose everything about the future to her. Suddenly, Sophie arrives at Verda's hideout alongside Lydia. Ard is taken aback by Lydia's presence but regains his composure. They engage in a brief conversation, during which the fiery Lydia ends up challenging Ard to a duel. Ard accepts the challenge, and their duel begins. Lydia launches a flurry of punches, which Ard manages to block. However, she then throws sand in his eyes and lands a punch in his gut. Ard gets up and charges at her, delivering a punch to her forehead, but it has no effect. In return, Lydia delivers a powerful uppercut. They continue fighting throughout the entire day until they both collapse to the ground, completely exhausted. Lydia acknowledges Ard's excellent fighting skills and expresses her admiration for him. Taking advantage of the situation, Ard seizes the opportunity to request a meeting with Varvatos. However, Varvatos responds by stating that Ard will have to accomplish something and earn his trust before such a meeting can take place. Several days later, they engage in a battle where Ard, Sophie, and Irina are positioned at the backlands while the vanguard is winning. Suddenly, a general from the Demon King's army appears, wreaking havoc among the backline forces. Ard swiftly takes action and decides to defeat the general to earn Varvatos' trust. He successfully eliminates the general, leaving Lydia impressed by his strength. Subsequently, they receive an invitation to the castle. Before they can have a meeting with the king, a fireball is launched towards them, which Ard blocks. This turns out to be the doing of Alvardo, who was testing Ard's skills. Alvardo expresses his desire to duel Ard, but Varvatos intervenes and instructs him to leave. They all proceed to the throne room, where Ard is addressed as the Demon King. This revelation surprises him, and he questions why they are referring to him with that title. Ard suspects that something is amiss and tries to brush it off as a mistake. They return to Verda, where Ard inquires about the current world. Verda informs him that there is a separate Demon King in this timeline, distinct from his own. In this alternate world, Verda speculates that they belong to different dimensions or timelines, and in order to return, they must defeat the current Demon Lord. Suddenly, Lydia arrives and instructs Ard to accompany her. Along the way, she reveals that they are heading to the castle of an archman named Melvius, known for being a powerful curse user. Upon reaching Ard's castle, he effortlessly defeats all of his enemies. However, they are shocked to discover that Melvius has already been killed by an unknown assailant. A dark figure in armor emerges, proclaiming themselves as the new Demon Lord. The figure instructs Lydia to inform Varvatos of their declaration of war before disappearing. Varvatos calls a council meeting, and they decide to declare war on the new Demon Lord. Ard returns to his rune but is surprised to find the Demon Lord waiting for him. Ard questions why the Demon Lord is there, and the Demon Lord proceeds to explain his story. He reveals that he is Ard from another timeline, where he lost everyone he loved. The god sent him to this timeline with the purpose of destroying the world. The Demon Lord seeks Ard's help to accomplish this mission and save Lydia, who originally died in this battle. Ard tells the Demon Lord that he will let him know his decision, and the Demon Lord vanishes. The next day, the battle intensifies on the front lines, but Lydia notices that Ard is missing. Ard has gone to meet the Demon Lord in his domain. When the Demon Lord asks for Ard's answer, he responds that he will not allow the world to be destroyed. The Demon Lord perceives this as a declaration of war and attacks Ard. However, Ard easily neutralizes the Demon Lord's magic and creates a magical gravity field around him. The Demon Lord manages to escape the gravity field and reveals that he has already captured Ginny and Ariana in his castle. The Demon King threatens Ard, stating that he will kill both Ginny and Irina if Ard refuses to join his army. However, Ard notices Lydia's arrival at the castle. Lydia swiftly dispatches the summoned monsters and destroys the castle's core, saving Ginny and Irina. With both girls safe, Ard can now fight without holding back. Both Ard and the Demon King unleash their ultimate abilities, and Ard also transforms into the Demon King. The clash of their swords fills the air with a resounding sound. The Demon King overpowers Ard, but Ard jumps into the sky, attempting to stab him. However, a force field surrounding the Demon King prevents Ard from landing the blow. Suddenly, Lydia escapes from both of their souls and warns the Demon King that he cannot survive this encounter. Ard swings his sword, gravely injuring the Demon King. He approaches him, determined to end his life, while the Demon King continues to caution him about the consequences of his actions. Ard, resolute in his goal to save the world, stabs the Demon King through the heart, killing him and emerging victorious in the battle. As soon as he does so, he is transported to another dimension, where the god congratulates him before sending him back to his present timeline. Ard awakens alongside Irina and Ginny, while Sophie hovers nearby. Sophie tells them that they were asleep during the entire journey and have now arrived at their destination. At first, they think it might have been a dream, but they quickly realize that the experiences were too real to be just a dream. They remember everything vividly, like the battles they fought, the people they met, and the strong emotions they felt. The journey was exciting and filled with challenges, and they formed deep connections with others along the way.